Welcome to another video from Lockdown Electronics with me, Bill. This time we've got another review, but it's something a little bit different to normal, so let's hop straight to the bench and look what it is we're going to be looking at. Okay, well this is going to be quite a different kind of review because this is what we're going to be looking at today. This is the Kaiweets KET05 test lead set, which comes in rather a handy storage box, a decent quality one at that. So what I'm going to do by the magic of filmmaking is just get all this stuff out so we can see what we've got. So I'm going to click my fingers and there we have some of the contents of the box. I'm going to deal with the leads first and then we'll look at the various accessories. So first up we've got a pair of, I guess I'm going to call them tweezers, and we've got the completely normal multimeter shrouded banana plug connections there, and obviously each side of this is connected to each lead, and there is identifier minus and plus on there, so that's going to be the kind of thing would be handy for checking components in service, particularly SMD. Another pair of leads here that have got those tiny little clip-on connectors that I guess you're all going to be familiar with, and again exactly the same multimeter ends. And the third set of leads are simply a set of right angled, I guess, meter connection end leads to straight connectors, and these are the leads that we're going to be using with these accessories. So I'm going to move these to one side and then we'll look at the contents of the box. Okay, so here are the various accessories that we make use with the double-ended leads, and I've tried to put them in some kind of logical order. So first of all on this side we've got two pairs of, I guess they're alligator or crocodile clips, depending on which phrase you like to use. The large ones nice and meaty with a good size grip inside there, and the smaller ones pretty handy for using. Certainly going to make use of those with my breadboard projects. These two have got this sort of like plunger action here, a bit like a syringe in a way, and pushing down on there causes the end to open. I'll just show you a little still here of the detail of the end, so that's going to be good for gripping onto components. Here we've got a pair of what looks like pretty standard multimeter probes with the insulating covers on, so potentially quite handy if you've got damaged leads and you just want to use them as replacements. All these parts of course have a banana plug socket in the end and would simply fit in. I'm probably stating the obvious here, but they simply fit into these leads like so, and then you've got your fairly standard probe lead. Okay, here we've got again, these have got nice chunky handles, which is good for people like me with large hands. And here we've got another pair which you've got very sharp pointed end on. Just be careful with that. They have got a guard on, which is understandable, and that I find that quite useful for just pushing onto a soldered connection, and you can actually put a little bit of pressure on and you will actually get a grip and also a better contact. So they're needlepoint ones. Across here we've got another pair of what look like standard probe leads, but they're actually marked up as 10 amp and they're quite meaty devices. The shroud will come off here to reveal a little bit more of the probe, but I guess you're likely to get a bit more reliable measurement with a more heavy duty piece of wire. Again, they plug into there and actually look just like a pair of leads. Sort of works rather well, the connection. So those are 10 amp. Here we've got some long insulated ones, so they'd be quite good for going past a few components that you don't want to accidentally touch. And again, they've got reasonably sharp point on and insulating shroud, so they're good for working inside busy chassis. And finally down here we've got two pairs of much smaller probes. Again, they're both needlepoint, but these are much smaller and quite flexible, so very handy to use in small spaces, as you can see. So yeah, quite a good selection of probes there. As I say, all those just assembled with this standard pair of leads. Now they're hobbyist multimeter probes with leads, and I know that there'll be one or two of you, keen to point out that they're not that good, and the wire could be better, etc. They're for use with from hobbyists, and to me these are perfectly good. This is the kind of set that I would make lots of use of various bits and pieces. Now I do have some leads like this already, but if I'd not got a set of leads, I really couldn't ask for a more comprehensive kit. I think they're really good. So I'm not going to show you them all, but what I will do is I will show you a couple of the ones that have got a built-in grip. So I'm going to show you these. I'm also going to show you the ones with the small connections and the tweezers, and we'll just have a look at those, doing a little bit of measuring. Okay, I've got the tweezers first of all hooked up to the Kaiweets ST600Y multimeter there. I'll put a link to that meter's review up the top for you if you've not already seen it. Worth a look. I quite like this meter. In fact, it's my go-to meter these days when I'm doing bits and pieces like this on the bench here. So I've got it set to resistance, and I'm just using this little circuit board here. This is the Mitch Electronics Analog Explorer board, and I'm pretty sure these 4 resistors here aren't connected to anything else in the circuit, so I'm going to be fairly safe getting some reliable measurements off them. Obviously be aware of that when you're measuring components in circuit. The results may be influenced by something else. So let's just start along those resistors. I've got here brown, black, red, which I think is 1K. So let's see what the tweezers are going to make of that. If the board will stay still. 985 ohms. I'll put just a little close up there so you can see the tweezers actually on the board and how easy they are to place on components. This would be similar for SMD as well. Here I think we've got 10K yet, 9.87K. This is pretty sure this is 22K, this one, red, orange. Yep, indeed it is. And I think at the end we've got 100K, yeah, 98.2K ohms. So that's the tweezers being used on the board there. I rather like that. There is another way that we could use these tweezers, so I'm just going to quickly get set up and show you that. Okay, I'm still using the Analog Explorer board, which you can hopefully see there, but I wanted to be able to just put the screen onto the oscilloscope. So this is my rather ancient but nice Hameg 307 single channel analog scope. But what's nice about this scope is that it has a built-in curve tracer. Now there's plenty of reviews about that on the internet. I'll put a link to this scope for you so you can look at it if you want to. But curve tracers are really handy because they give you a visual display of the type of component. So I'm going to go to a diode on the board here, which I know for a fact is not connected. One of the ends is not connected when the power supply isn't on, so I should get a conventional diode display. So I'll put the tweezers on the diode like so, and what we're getting there is that knee is the 0.6 volts forward bias voltage of a silicon diode, and that's the characteristic trace of a diode on a curve tracer. And if I just turn the tweezers round and put it in the other way, we should see exactly the same thing, but just the other way up. Indeed we are. It's maybe not quite so easy to see on the screen, but that is slightly away from the center line. Now there's another diode, it's just another small signal diode, but it's actually across another component here, and if I connect that up we get a very different kind of display. And we have got that diode knee in there somewhere, but clearly there are other components in the circuit here influencing what's going on with that diode. So if you go to something like, say, a capacitor, if I can get a capacitor, no I can't, that isn't a capacitor. Be good if it was. There we go, that's a capacitor, electrolytic capacitor. You get that characteristic ellipse, and that size of that ellipse changes depending on value. And it's probably next to that is a diode, and I'm going to just go across that diode and see what we get. Yeah, we've got the diode knee somewhere in there, but we've also got an ellipse, haven't we? So we've got a combination of components there. So any measurement taken with a meter on that component would be a little bit dubious, because it's being influenced by other components. But nonetheless, you can see another handy use for these tweezers is to attach them up to the curve tracer. And I've just used a little extension lead, as the tweezer leads are not quite so long. They're quite handy for the bench, but for this I needed to extend them. Yeah, that's quite a nice little use for the probe set. Okay, so here are the small grip connectors, if you like, and I've got them hooked over one of the diodes here. In fact, it was the diode I've just shown you that was giving me both a diode and a capacitor indication. So it's saying 0.2 volts in the forward bias condition, which is not what you'd expect for a silicon diode, but that's because there's other things going on in the circuit that are influencing that measurement. What I am actually doing here is simply showing you how easy it is to clip on in a relatively small area. Now, I appreciate you can't see that very well. Here's a still showing you the actual board there with the connections on it for you, and you can see that although there's very little lead area, it is nonetheless making a nice reliable connection. So those little leads, they're going to come in very handy, probably make quite a lot of use of them. Probably also going to use them with my component tester as well, which will come in quite handy. Finally, I want to show you these long plunger leads, and I've picked a component here on this little homebrew circuit board. It's a 220k ohm resistor, as you can see, and there was quite restricted access. So what I will do is, again, I'll put a macro shot on of the way those leads are connected up, but that's really quite handy, because it allows you, if you want to get inside a, I don't know, any more complicated enclosure, and you want the probes to be insulated from other bits, you could actually certainly pick up on a component there in quite a restricted space. So yeah, that's handy for working inside devices and enclosures. So there you go. That's I think that's pretty much all the leads set, and hopefully you've seen some of the applications. Okay, well, there you have the Kaiweets KET05 Multimeter lead set, and hopefully I've put it through its paces for you. Dare I say, an ideal Christmas present for the electronics hobbyist that already has everything. I think there's one or two bits in there that most people could find a good use for. I know I'm certainly going to be making some use of some of the items in there on a fairly regular basis. Now, as I've said before, this is hobbyist equipment. You know, it's not professional standard equipment, but it's perfectly adequate, and I was actually really impressed with that box of parts, and a pretty good box to keep it in as well, which is a very handy addition to the bench here. So yeah, that's going to be good. I'll put a link in the description to this particular product, and if you think that's tempting, or you've got family members keen to buy you something, if you give them the code that you'll also find in the description, there's a discount there for you. If you use that code, it helps you, it also helps the channel in a small way, and that'd be really good, and I appreciate that. Thanks very much for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.